Hey, welcome back to Cash Keyboards. Recently, I got a message that said, "Hey Cash, I need a keyboard. Black everything with white legends. TKL, tactile, heavy switches. Can you make it happen?" Yeah, I got you. So we'll start with the GMMK TKL Barebones edition. We're gonna pull out our knife and cut through the tape here. We'll take a look around the box just to make sure there's no other tape before we dive into this. Okay, no other signs of tape, so we'll close up the knife and we'll dive into this box. First of all, the first impressions of the box is it's really nice looking. It's got a ton of information on it, which is really nice when you're in this budget line of keyboards. Sometimes it sucks to receive a box that has no information or clear indication of what actually comes in the package, so this is a nice change. Alright, let's go ahead and open this box and see what we're working with. Go ahead and pull that tab down, lift the lid back. You got this nice plastic cover. It's not very secure, but it does protect the keyboard from getting damaged in shipping. We'll pull out the keyboard, set that aside for a moment. Here we have an information card. We got a cool sticker. Opening the back flaps. We have a couple keycaps to replace like the escape key. Nice little accent. Nice when they include those. We have a 6-foot braided USB-C cable that is removable. And then we have a switch puller, and it looks like a couple pads, maybe for like a Band-Aid mod type situation. And that's about it. So we'll close this up and set it aside. Alright, once we get the keyboard out, let's take a look at it. Now I did talk with this client a little bit, and they wanted a case that wasn't very bulky, something a bit more sleek and slim. So that's why we went with the GMMK. As you can see, it's kind of on the thinner side of things, but it has a really sturdy build quality. Flipping over the back, you have these really nice back feet. They have like a magnetic connection when they flip up into place. It feels really good. It also has a keycap remover back here. It's really hard to get this out.
One eternity later.
So after using a tiny screwdriver, I finally clipped it out. I'm not too sure why it's so difficult to get out, but yeah, it's there, and if you need it, good luck. Alright, flipping it back over, we're gonna go ahead and check the stabilizers. They are plate mount stabilizers. I was seeing if there's any wobble. There's very, very light wobble, but nothing crazy. So we're not gonna Band-Aid mod this or anything like that. But we are going to take these out and lube them, just because the history of stabilizer lube and it not being evenly applied. We want to make sure the sound and feel is even across the board. So first things first, we'll go ahead and grab our bowl and our screwdriver, and we'll get the top plate off. As you can tell here, there are a ton of screws in this keyboard. So make sure you just take your time, get all the screws, so you don't have any problems separating this keyboard. Okay, once you have all the screws out, typically this is where we would lift from the front and flip towards the back. But in this case, this is more a lift straight off. This will separate with no problems. As you can see here, there's not much room for activities in this case. So typically with our foam, to dampen the sound and make it thonky, we're gonna have to figure out a different strategy to make a good sound. So we'll first start by removing this foam. you're going to find these little squares of felt-like material that cover some screws that hold the PCB to the plate. You're going to start by taking those out so we can remove the PCB from the plate. As you can see here, once you find the little felt pieces, you just peel them back a little bit, and then you'll take the screws out. Once you have those out, we can simply pick up the plate and the PCB together, flip it over, and it'll separate on its own. With that done, we'll set our PCB to the side and focus on the plate and stabilizers. To remove the stabilizers, we'll grab a small screwdriver. We'll press the tabs in the front of the stabilizers, which will tilt them forward. Once they're tilted forward, you can lift them out. Once you got the first one out, go ahead and repeat this process to remove all the stabilizers from the plate. Now that we have all of our stabilizers out, we'll go ahead and grab the spacebar and start with it. We'll grab the bar and at a 90-degree angle, pop it and slide it out of its housing. You'll see here there's a little bit of lube on it, but don't worry about that. Here, when you separate the stem from the housing, you'll notice the two holes on one side. Those go in the front. The back side will have one hole, knowing it's the back. It's an easy way to tell which direction the stem goes in. For the housing, we're just going to focus on lubing the walls. We're going to do this with 205G0, and then for the bar itself, we're going to use dielectric grease. This is the same as lubing switches. You don't need a ton, a little will go a long way. So we'll put a little bit on a brush, and we're just going to lube the walls. Get a nice even coating, and you'll be good to go. Grabbing our dielectric grease, we're going to grab our bar, and first, of course, clean it off. I typically recommend using a shop towel for this, but I didn't have any available at this time. So we go ahead and grab a napkin, make sure we don't have any frays or anything like that on it. We'll go ahead and clean this off. The reason I'm lubing them, even though they appear to be lubed already, is because sometimes they're inconsistently lubed. And I want to make sure the sound is consistent across the board. So we'll go ahead and grab our bar, dip it in. We'll just go right past the curb, and as long as it looks like you have a good coating on it, then I say you're good to go. Once done, we'll go ahead and reinsert it the same way we took it out. Note these are a little bit more of a struggle than other stabilizers I've used and modified, but just keep it slow and you'll be good to go. Alright, all of our stabilizers are lubed. We'll go ahead and grab our plate and we'll reinsert them the same way that we took them out. If you're ever confused on which way to insert them again, not knowing where the bar goes up or down, you can actually look at the side profiles of the housing. They'll have little notches that will line up with the grooves in the plate. So if you're ever confused or don't know which way they go in, just look for those notches. Line up the notches and you'll be good to go. Now that we have our stabilizers in, we're going to go ahead and grab our PCB and mount it back to the plate. We'll do this by gently lining it back up, and then we'll grab our screws, move the felt pieces, and put our screws back in. Make sure you put the felt pieces back over the screws. They're there so the screws don't make contact with the bottom of the case. I know we're going to tape mod this, but maybe you're not, or maybe other people aren't. So, as a good practice, just make sure you put them back over so you don't have any problems. Now it's time to move on to tape. It's a little challenging with the plate since it sits a bit over the sides of the PCB, but we can always trim off excess. So just tape to your heart's desire. Here I do 2 layers. I didn't want to go for any more than that due to the tolerances between the case and the PCB. I think 2s was as much as I could get and still feel comfortable. Once we're done with our tape mod, we'll grab our case and put our foam back on this side. It's a nightmare trying to line it up on the PCB side, especially when you tape over what could guide you on where it goes. So use the case and put the foam there. Once we have that, we'll place our PCB and our plate on top. And here, I just gently apply pressure all across the board and go around evenly multiple times. Doing so will force the case through the tape that we applied to the PCB. Alternatively, you could poke holes through the tape, but I've done this every time and I've never had a problem. I think that'll change if I ever do have a problem, but until then, this is the way I do it. Once all the posts poke through the tape and your tolerances are lined back up and your case looks even, we'll go ahead and grab our screws and get the board screwed back together. Now all of our screws are in, we're going to go ahead and have a look around the board to make sure we don't have any weird gaps or tolerance issues. If it looks good, I think we're good to go. Since this commission asked for a heavier tactile style switch, we're going with the Keychron K Pro Mint switches. These have 67 grams of operating force, so they're on the heavier side of switches. The tactile bump is right at the top of the stroke, so they feel really good. They're like a heavier Panda. They're also factory lubed, and since I've never had a problem with Keychron's factory lube, we're not going to actually take these apart and lube them again. We're going to run them as is. A little bit about these switches. The stems are palm and TPE double shot. The housing is PC transparent. The housing base is nylon PA66. The spring is steel, and it's a 3-pin. Just note that the GMMK only takes 3-pin switches, so make sure you're not trying to use 5 pins if you're going to build this keyboard. Okay, all of our switches are in. We'll go ahead and clean up our excess switches. These switches do look great. It's kind of a shame you have to put keycaps on cool looking switches. But let's go ahead and grab these extra ones, throw them back in the jar so we can move on to keycaps. Speaking of keycaps, the request was black everything with white legends. So here we chose the drop Artifact Shield white on black keycap set. Drop makes some really nice keycaps. This set is just pure black keycaps with white legends. It's 108 keycaps in total, and they're cherry profile. They're also double shot PBT, so they should feel and sound really nice. And we also shouldn't have a problem with rubbing off our legends over time in use. As you can see here, they come packaged really well. It looks like they have bubble protection inside their plastic case. It also appears that they sit in these little cardboard cutouts so they don't move or rattle around. We did have one keycap that was out of place, but not by much. Inspecting it, it looks great. So let's go ahead and get these on the board and we can see the final shots. And there you have it, the GMMK TKL Barebones edition, tape modded loop stabilizers with Keychron K Pro Mint tactile switches and dropped Artifact Shield white on black keycaps. I really enjoyed this commission, and I look forward to bringing you more in the future. Now, let's hear how it sounds. Hey, thanks for watching. Please consider dropping a like and subscribing. I really appreciate it. Have a good day.